Orlando, thank you for meeting today. I look forward to our time together. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this for me, and with any luck, you'll get some good stuff out of it as well. Also, congratulations to you again on your Nats victory.
Yay! Thank you.
From what I understand, we will be working on some Lonely House today, right? From
Yep,
Street
some
Scene.
house. Yeah.
And then the recitative for Don Ottavio that precedes Dalla sua pace, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So before we do, let's do a little warm-up, shall we?
Yes.
Great. Okay, turn to the side for me. Alrighty. Nice slow breath like you're sipping through a straw. Expand as much as you can in your lower abdominal area. And exhale. Very good. And of course, this is so that you can feel the sensation of this expansion that we like in this nice low area. Of course, you don't have to breathe like you're sipping through a straw every time, but
Yeah.
the idea is that when we breathe like we're sipping through a straw, the air tends to go into this nice low place, and we want to be able to remember and familiarize ourselves with that sensation so that we can replicate it however it is that we breathe, right? Now, this time, take a nice low breath like you're sipping through a straw. Expand as much as you can in your lower abdominal area. Make your tummy firm and give it a little slap. Very good. Exhale. And of course, for this, we like to do this so that we can feel the engagement of the support, right? We like to isolate the breathing. Exactly. We like to isolate the breathing and the support and think specifically about those things before we even start singing. When we have to think about resonance and tone and pitch and all these other things, we want to really make sure that our support is set up and that coordination is in order before we start singing, right? And also, for the record, I don't ask you to slap yourself because I abuse my students or because I like to watch my students abuse themselves. This is so that they can feel the engagement, make sure that it's firm for themselves, and then in the process, I can hear that the engagement is taking place. Great. So now, let's do that same thing. Breathe, engage, but we're going to do some singing, okay? Good, good, good. Very good. Just two things. Just make sure that you're onsetting the tone cleanly and the pitch cleanly, and you're not scooping up to it. And I know this is very hard to do for to onset the tone cleanly on your first notes of the day, perhaps. But at the same time, but at the same time, it'll help with this exercise in particular. And then as you descend, as you slide down, don't worry about it sounding like a big Italian at portamento, right? It doesn't have to be it can really feel like a slide. If there's no spin in the sound, if there's no vibration, that's totally fine. I'll demonstrate for you one more time. And some vibrations came in at the end naturally. And if your vibrations come in the beginning or while you're sliding, that's totally fine. But just so you know, I'm not necessarily asking for you to vibrate in this particular exercise. It's really about the coordination of the breath, the support, and then feeling this nice, easy slide. Nice little breath like you're sipping through a straw. Make your tummy firm and sing. Very, very good. Very, very good. There was much, much more freedom in that. Much more freedom in that. It sounded more natural, both in terms of where the resonance was, but also in terms of where your voice was through the slide. So let's go down. And just once again, be careful of the onset, okay? Very good. Orlando, I just want to say, there are a couple of things that I'm really appreciating about what you're doing. For one, you're engaging the abdominal muscles before you onset the tone. Another thing that you're doing that's really, really wonderful is that you are staying supported through the end of the phrase. And I know that this is something that we've worked on in the past, but I just want to applaud you on your efforts and on your progress. And if you want to, you can put a little tiny H at the beginning. If it feels a little bit too abrupt, that was really, really great, Orlando. So not only did it start right on the pitch, but also it didn't sound too abrupt. And it also didn't sound like there was an H in there. Very good, Orlando, and quite impressive, honestly, that you can sing with, frankly, this much chest voice up on this G that you just sang. But there's a reason, perhaps, why you're taking a sip from that big jug of water, and perhaps a reason why that jug is so big. I want to make it a little bit less taxing on you and a little bit easier for you. So you just sang C E G, and it was quite open, quite chesty still. Let's go down half a step to F sharp. So this is B, D sharp, F sharp. I want you to sing more of an on top. So it'll be like on top, like the like UH, right? Yeah. So that sounds like a healthier production. It sounds like you're incorporating more head voice into the sound. It sounds a little bit more protected, right? It sounds a little bit more protected. It also sounds secure. You're secure in the first way, but at the same time, you know, as time goes on, you know, over the years, it'll become less secure because it'll feel less comfortable.
Yeah.
And I notice also you just did that and you didn't have to take a sip of water, so that's a good sign, right? Let's go back up to that G. Right, that's got much more head voice in it, and yet it's not any less robust or any less loud than what you did previously. It probably sounds a little bit less loud to you, perhaps.
Yeah, it actually it felt like I was doing less, which is awesome.
Right. Just so you know, because I know that it probably sounds a little bit less, like I said, robust, a little bit less loud to you when you sing this way.
Yeah.
It does not sound any less loud or any less robust to us. This is just an illusion that takes place when we start incorporating more head voice into our sounds. Right. We, as the singer, don't hear it as much, right? But the truth of the matter is, from a decibel standpoint, it's probably the same. But in a way, it actually sounds more robust because there are more overtones. There was some more richness to the sound. It's the difference between and
Yeah.
Very good, Orlando. You're gonna have to now incorporate the color into the second note. So and then you can open your mouth up a little bit more to give yourself more space on top. Very good, very good, Orlando. And so just to be clear, this is D, F sharp, A.
Whoa.
So the reason why, right, probably felt much easier than you're accustomed to, right?
Yeah.
And it's because you're allowing yourself to turn over by adding that coloring once you reach the F sharp. This is the same thing that Pavarotti does. This is the same thing that I do. Not to say that I'm in the same league as Pavarotti by any means, but this is what we tenors do to protect ourselves and to keep this nice robust sound through the range and to ease the transition into the upper part of the range, right? So let's continue. Yeah, not bad at all. Honestly, not bad at all. And part of it is perhaps my fault in informing you that you're singing a B flat, you know. But at the same time, I think that part of it is also that you want it to sound more robust than it needs to.
Yeah.
If you're singing it correctly, it's not going to sound nearly loud enough and nearly full enough to your ear. Yeah. But to us, we're going to hear so much more than what you're hearing. Okay, so just trust that if you incorporate the necessary amount of head voice, even though it doesn't sound full enough to you, it's going to sound plenty full to us. Okay, let's go even further with it. This B natural, I think, is going to be maybe a little bit easier for you in a strange way because you're not going to be able to sing it with nearly as much weight as you're trying to sing the B flat. So really give yourself full permission for this to almost feel like falsetto. Yeah, no, honestly, that's very impressive. Let me ask you this. Does that sound loud to you on top or not?
No, it doesn't feel like I'm
No, oh my god.
doing
So
anything.
it's huge. It's a massive sound, and it can actually afford to be a little bit lighter. That little sort of bit of graveliness, almost sort of crackiness that you're hearing, what that is you trying to add a little bit more weight to the sound. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is you don't actually have to add any more weight to make it sound big and robust. It already sounds that way to us. If you try to add any more, it'll sort of detract from the clarity of the sound. That is really quite stunning. We're gonna go up to C because C is gonna force you to do it. C is gonna force you to do it. Let it be super light on top. Lots of support still, but if it feels like you're basically singing in falsetto, chances are it's gonna be what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Did it sound too light to you, that top note?
It honestly feels like I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, man. That's the thing is if you're doing it right, it's not gonna feel like you're doing enough. But what
Yeah.
I'm telling you is that was the most exciting and loudest note you've sung today.
Whoa.
Alrighty, so Lonely House from Street Scene, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I love this song. And I would say, in terms of the approach to the legato and the line, err on the side of it being more operatic, right?
More
And in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of sliding. Just sing this phrase on the vowels, no consonants, sliding from note to note. Very good, Orlando. Very good. Now just drop the little consonants in there.
At night when everything is quiet.
Good. That way I feel like I'm hearing all the notes. I'm hearing the voice spin on every note.
Yeah.
That'll help, like I said, with the legato line. But also, in a strange way, the text is actually clearer when we can hear more tone. We can add as much consonant as we want, but if we don't hear tone on a specific word or syllable, it's going to be hard for us to decipher it, because that's really what we hear. We hear the consonants as well, but if we can't hear the tone, we can't hear the vowel, and then we can't decipher the word. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Good, good. And so then what we can do is we can think about syllable stress, right? Because this is a really tricky song in terms of trying to sound natural and not robotic, because
Yeah.
there are all these repeated notes. So in this case, something like at night when everything is quiet. So same sense of line and same sense of legato, with just a little bit more emphasis on those important syllables.
At night when everything is quiet.
Yeah, that's sounds much more conversational, much more natural, and not only does it make the text more communicative, but it also makes the phrase more musical. You know, because not just da 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 da, right? That sounds much more musical, right? Even without the word.
This old house seems to breathe a sigh. Oh, wait, hold on. I think you want more of a. Hold on. This old house seems to breathe a sigh.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's nothing more wonderful than when, someone sort of self-corrects, because that shows that these principles are sticking and that you can be productive even when we're not together.
Sometimes a distant telephone.
Good. Very good. Very good. Now let's talk about some technical stuff that I think can apply just to your singing in general, but particularly your singing of this piece. There are all these F sharps, or in this case, in this key, it's G flat, right? We talked about this before, this idea that F sharps should be when you start turning over, right? And this is different because it's not an A vowel, it's an O vowel, an O, right? The more closed the vowel is, the lower you should turn it over. So if you're turning over an A vowel on F sharp, you should definitely turn over an O vowel on F sharp. So what I would encourage you to do is try to sing this as, instead of an open O, telephone, try to sing it as a more closed O, telephone.
Sometimes a distant telephone.
Good. So that has more head voice in it. you can actually go a little further with it. That still probably has a little bit more chest voice in it than you need, A, and B, you can probably achieve more overtones by singing a more closed O. For our purposes right now, sing telephone,
Telephone.
oo vowel.
Sometimes a distant telephone.
Yeah, so that's the resonance that we want. Honestly, I'm totally okay with that. If you want to make it perfect,
Yeah.
you can just open a hair, but err on the side of it being too closed.
Sometimes a distant telephone.
Yeah, right. That sounds so much more, in terms of color and quality, balanced with the rest of the voice. There's also there's so many more overtones in that. It sounds more secure,
Yeah.
and it sounds more sustainable, both in terms of sustaining this individual note right now, but sustainable over the course of your singing life. You're still young, and telephone, more open. You can do that now, right? But as time goes on, that's going to be more and more taxing on your chords, to the point where it's not going to feel quite secure, and it's not going to feel quite comfortable. I would guess that even now, what we did just now with the more closed O is more comfortable, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lonely.
I wouldn't put quite as big a portamento
Yeah.
on here. You know what I mean? It sounds a little bit too Italianate.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky thing, because I don't want you to sing Lonely House. I want you to slide. But honestly, as far as portamento is concerned, we're basically always portamentoing. If we're singing properly, we're sort of sliding from note to note. That's what legato is, essentially. But the thing about it is, it's a question of how early we begin the portamento and how fully we sing the portamento, right? So if I'm singing this in a more Italian style, lonely house, if I'm singing verismo opera, you know what I mean? But if I'm singing it in a more French style, I might still have a portamento. It would just not start as early.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be quite as accented, right? So it would be lonely house. You can still hear the portamento in there. It's just later, and it's less emphasized, if you will.
I see.
And I would say that the approach here is certainly more French than it is Italian, but really what it is more specifically is it's more sort of jazz musical theater, right?
Yeah. How lonely it's gonna be. Oh no. I had some phlegm.
Just be careful. Cannabis. You had a little what some of us call a pavarotata. He likes adding these little vowels in between, cannabis, right? But yeah, I mean, and that'll make it sound like you're foreign, and it's a tricky thing. And I mean, it's a personal thing that I deal with as well. I don't actually even speak Spanish. English is my first language, but because of the way I look, people often think that I'm a Spanish speaker.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. But the problem is, if I do little things like that, if my I vowel is a little too closed, people assume that that English isn't my first language, but it's something that you and I, in particular, have to deal with, where people are already going to look at us and think, okay, well, how's his English? Even if we speak to them perfectly, you know what I mean? And it's unfortunate, but that's just the reality. That's the way people hear us differently than they might, a white tenor from Illinois, you know what I mean? Doing the exact same thing. So it's just something to be aware of. That's the beauty about sliding in general. When we slide, our voices naturally want to go to the proper resonance for that note and that vowel. It's harder to just sort of isolate individual notes and try to figure out exactly what the resonance is supposed to be in that moment, on that vowel, on that note. But when we slide to it, it just happens to lock into the right resonance, and it's a wonderful thing. So it takes a lot of this sort of target practice out of our singing. It makes it a lot easier. We're just singing phrases of slid lines as opposed to individual notes. It's hard to sing on an F an open O that's soft. It's just hard to do that. Yeah. But what I would encourage you to do, and I think it'll work for you, sing a very closed O. You'll have more dynamic control over it. So you'll be able to actually sing a true pianissimo. Yeah. And it'll actually sound like the word.
Funny You can be so lonely.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So in closing the vowel, you're able to turn over into a more head voice dominant space, and then you're
Yeah.
able to have more access to those softer colors and dynamics. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, it's you have much more control this way, right?
For sure. Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like it can grow and come back and do whatever it wants. Yeah.
yeah.
In this
Uh-huh.
loss.
Cool. Not bad at all. It can feel more secure if you let it be headier and lighter. Let it feel almost like falsetto. Good. Not bad. Not bad. The B flat sounds good now. See if you can sing a pure E vowel on Lee. In the same way that when you sang the night for me, your instinct is saying, oh, I can't possibly sing it that closed. But singing it that closed, as is the vowel in lone Lee, will actually force the resonance up into your head voice.
Yeah.
And it'll actually make it much easier for you to execute.
In this loss.
Yeah, that's the best you've done it today, and I'm guessing it's probably the best you've ever done it, right?
In my life.
So we're looking now at come mai creder deggio, right? The recitativo before Dalla sua pace, right?
Yeah. Come mai creder deggio di sincero delitto, capace un cavaliero di scoprire il vero, ogni mezzo si cerchi. Io sento in petto e disposo ed amico il dover che mi parla, disinganarla voglio vendicarla.
Very good. Very good. When we sing in Italian, particularly in recitative, it helps to have it be more conversational. Not only will this sort of natural variation in the tempo make it sound a little bit more communicative in a natural way, but it'll also give the rest of it a little bit more shape, because when we speak, there's a natural cadence and a natural sort of moving forward when we speak, and then a pulling back when we speak. That in itself already it creates the music. You know what I mean? All we have to do is think about how we would communicate this text. Were we speaking Italian, and were we communicating these feelings that we have in this moment, right? So do you mind just reading to me the English translation? It's good to have a word for word translation, but sort of come up with something that you can actually say naturally, that aligns as much as possible with what it is that you're saying. So for example, something along the lines of, like, how can I ever believe that a cavalier is capable of such a black crime? Because that way, what can happen is you can speak that, and there will be a natural sort of expression, to that.
Yeah.
That you can then directly implement to the Italian. In a way, I'll sort of demonstrate for you. How can I ever believe a cavalier capable of such a black crime? And then I can just immediately say, come mai creder deggio di si nero delito capace un cavaliero? I'm saying it with the same inflection, right?
Yeah.
And then when I sing it, come mai creder deggio di si nero delito capace un cavaliero, I'm just speaking it essentially, on pitches. And so in order to feel comfortable speaking on pitches, we have to feel first comfortable speaking. And in order for us to feel comfortable speaking in Italian, we have to feel comfortable speaking in English first. Does that make sense?
For sure. How can I believe such a black crime capable to a cavaliero?
Now speaking in Italian, immediately.
Come mai creder deggio di si nero delitto capace un cavaliero?
Good. Now sing it. Come mai, same inflection, same rhythm.
Come mai creder deggio di si nero delitto capace un cavaliero?
Go. And so did you notice that you took more time when you sung than when you spoke?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. The key is trying not to do that. Just do it in the same rhythm, same inflection as you spoke. Let me just talk about this final, these final two notes, right? There's this thing called the Dornaman triplet. Have we talked about this at all? Joan Dornaman was a coach at the Metropolitan Opera. She might still be a coach at the Metropolitan Opera. She's been there a long, long time. She came up with this little tool that helps us to sing Italian recitative in a way that sounds more natural, right? So if you were to sing this as written, it would be cavaliero, cavaliero. But the way that we would speak it is cavaliero, cavaliero. So the rhythm is not exactly as written. Ta-ka-ka-ka, 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 right? And so what you'll notice is those last two notes are not even eighth notes. The stress syllable is a little longer. And so basically the formula that she came up with, instead of two eighth notes, think of it as three triplets. Da 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 da. But the stressed syllable, which is the second to last syllable, gets the first two triplets. So if it's da 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 iero 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 iero, because this is a principle that we're going to apply to everything. A di scoprire il vero ogni mezzo si cerchi. Io sento in petto e di sposo, because if we sing e di sposo ed amico, it doesn't sound like Italian. And so you notice that there are little rests in here, right?
Yeah.
You don't actually necessarily have to observe those. Those are just there so that the measure has enough beats in it, right? If you wouldn't take a break in speaking it, then you shouldn't take a break when singing it. So for example, if I were to speak this, come mai creder deggio di si nero delito capace un cavaliero, I probably wouldn't breathe at all.
Oh, I see.
So in the same way, I would probably sing it. Come mai creder deggio di si nero delito capace un cavaliero. I would probably not breathe at all. Try it that way.
Come mai creder deggio di si nero delitto capace un cavaliero.
Yeah. Doesn't that feel more conversational?
It flows way better.
And we'll just isolate cavaliero instead of cavaliero. If you sustain that last O too long, it makes the stress a little bit funky for the word.
Cavaliero.
Good. Essentially what you're saying is, I feel in my breast as her fiance and her friend the duty that speaks to me. It's like he realizes, like, wow, like I'm not just her fiance, but I'm her friend. Like even her friend would do this. So if I'm thinking of this, I mean, those are rests to me that make sense, you know? Io sento in petto e dispo. I might take out the first rest, but you can leave that in if you want. Io sento in petto e disposo ed amico il dover che mi parla. Try speaking it that way.
Io sento in petto e disposo ed amico il dover che mi parla.
Good. Now sing it and just make sure that you double that T in petto.
Io sento in petto e disposo ed amico il dover che mi parla.
I like that.
I wish to undeceive her or avenge her.
Good. Speak it as though you're communicating this very bold statement that you are. You're basically saying, I'm going to either prove to her that she's not correct, or I'm going to kill Don Giovanni.
Yeah.
You know, so speak it with that in mind.
I wish to undeceive her or avenge her.
Good. Now speaking in Italian.
Disinganarla voglio o vendicarla.
Good. And just make sure that S in disinganarla voglio is a Z sound.
Disinganarla voglio o vendicarla.
Good. Disinganarla voglio. Let that be nice and closed.
Oh. Disinganarla voglio o vendicarla.
Better sing ooh up there.
Disinganarla voglio o vendicarla.
Good. Much better. That O sounded like an O, like it sounded like the word. Yeah. But also at the same time, it felt more secure. Yeah. It sounded rounder, warmer. It sounded like there were more overtones in the sound. It sounded like a note that you wanted to hold for a longer period of time, which is great in terms of, you know, obviously for our own ears, we want to hear this beautiful sound longer as well, but also in terms of the communication of what you're saying, you know? Gotcha. It's not just like, you know, I wish to undeceive her or avenge her. I wish to undeceive her or avenge her. Disinganarla voglio vendicarla.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's just do it one more time from beginning to end. I don't expect it to be perfect, but just give it a shot.
Come mai creder deggio di sì nero delitto capace un cavaliero di scoprire il vero ogni mezzo si cerchi io sento in peto e disposo ed amico il dover che mi parla disinganarla voglio vendicarla.
I mean, Orlando, it's like night and day. It's like night and day. I mean, like that what you did just now is something that the quality with which you did that is welcome on any stage, frankly.